Welcome back. Glad to be with you. My name is Jake Kim, and I'm looking forward to talking to you today about how gratitude is an essential part of the growth process. I've had numerous experiences where I've realized that God is real and that God is very good. I can remember a retreat I went on where God said to me very clearly, it was one of the times where I had no doubt that God was talking, and he said to me, over and over, I will be good to you, my son. That movement of God in my life, it moved me deeply. It's something that I long for. I think all of us long for is to know and experience the goodness of God. And one of the things I think that's really important and essential is that we actually need to be responding to that goodness. And one of the best ways that we can respond to that goodness is gratitude. I want to invite you to look back at a time where you had an experience of God. Go back to it. I want you to sit with that experience again. And I want you to try to remember all the things that happened there. What were the movements of God? What occurred there? What did God say? And let yourself feel it again. Let yourself believe in it again. Let yourself re-experience it. And that might take 5 minutes. It might take 1 minute, but I encourage you to be intentional there. We can't skip over this reactivating and remembering these important experiences with God. And so maybe you're looking at a journal, or maybe you're just remembering a time. All those are good. And once you spend a little time remembering it, I just want you to start expressing, whether that be out loud, whether it be in your heart, or whether it be writing it out in a journal. I just want you to start saying thank you to God. Like, thank you, God, for showing me that. Thank you, God, for how you revealed this to me. God, I thank you for your kindness and the ways that you touched me there. God, I thank you for how merciful you've been to me throughout my life. God, I thank you for the ways that you revealed yourself to me as loving and strong. Thank you for adoration. Thank you for that worship song. And I really just want you to get swept away in gratitude. It's amazing what this does to our hearts. There's so much psychological research behind gratitude, and there's so much spiritual experience behind the value of gratitude. You know, after we've had a powerful experience of God, one of the things we try to do is extract the most that we possibly can out of that experience. And that's good. That's why we would do gratitude exercises. But we're also invited to continue to grow. And the best way to keep our relationship with God growing is prayer. And there's a very simple form of prayer that I want to let you know about. It's called ARRR, A and then 3 R's. The first is acknowledge, where we acknowledge what's going on in our lives and we're honest about it. The next R is relate. That's where we tell God about what's actually going on in our lives. The next R is receive. This is where we slow down and actually let God talk. And I encourage people to have a journal ready and expect God to speak and to write down what you think he's saying. God talks to us in so many ways. He's present to us. God will never contradict himself. He'll always be good. It may not always feel good, but it always will be good. It'll be kind. It'll be for us. I've had experiences before where God has spoken to me and he corrected me pretty firmly. And I was laughing as he was correcting me. That's not easy to do, and that's not a common experience, but that's what God can do. So we give space for God to speak to us, and we receive from him. And the final R is that we respond. This is where we look at everything that's happened and we've acknowledged all that's happened and we do something about it. Maybe we go back into prayer and keep talking about something, or maybe it leads us to some kind of action. The response is the testament that we believe God actually was active, and it's us saying that this matters to me and I'm going to do something about it. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of times in my life where I've had God speak to me and I haven't responded, and that negatively impacts our relationship. I mean, how healthy is a relationship where somebody promises something and they don't follow through? It's a lack of integrity. And so that last R of respond is important. Again, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be over the top. It needs to be consistent and it needs to be authentic. As we continue on and growing, I think something that's really important, especially as we've had a powerful experience with God, is to get into really good resources. There are some amazing authors and amazing programs and things out there that are meant to facilitate our relationship with God. I'll mention two for me. The first is John Eldredge and what his ministry that used to be called Ransomed Heart, that's now called Wild at Heart. I've been exceptionally positively impacted by John Eldredge and his team. He has some incredible books, and what I really like about his books is almost all of them have a workbook that goes with it. It's almost like guided questions from John Eldredge. And so for me, John Eldredge, his books and his workbooks primarily have been a fantastic thing for me to continue to grow, and I've needed to stay engaged in them. Another person would be Father Jacques Philippe. He's a very simple writer that writes with incredible depth and beauty, and it has deeply impacted me. When we're going to grow in our relationship with God, we can't do it alone. We need to feed ourselves with good things. And so staying in good resources is really important. Something else that's really important when we're growing with God and we're wanting to continue these positive movements in our lives is continuing to receive from the life of the church, staying very close to the life of the church. And what I primarily mean by that are the sacraments. There are sacraments that you receive like once, and then there are sacraments that you're intended to receive a lot. And obviously the one-time sacraments like ordination, marriage, etc. But there are sacraments that were intended to be repeated. The Eucharist, confession. Those sacraments are intended to give us life and bring us back to life. We need life, and we need grace, and we need to have it in supernatural and powerful ways. That's what sacraments are. Now, maybe you go to Mass once a week. Simply going to Mass once more a week matters. It does things. Maybe you've gone to confession like once a year. Imagine going to confession once a month. And you might be thinking, gosh, I don't know anything that I've done that wrong. Well, ask some of the people around you. I'm sure they'll help you find a few things that you can bring to confession. Personally, the sacrament of confession has been an absolute game changer for me. It has been a sacrament that has brought me closer to God so consistently. I try to go to confession once a month. I need the sacrament. Staying close to the life of the church is essential as we're continuing to grow and trying to maintain this intimacy we've experienced with God. One final thought. When we're doing well with God, St. Ignatius would call this consolation. We need to be prepared and kind of expectant that desolation or the movements of the evil spirit, that they're coming. I think something that's very common is that people will have a powerful experience of God, and then they'll go home and maybe they forget to pray, or maybe they really screw up a conversation, or maybe they sin pretty badly. And then they think it all didn't matter. It's all gone. It's all gone away. That is not of God. God doesn't play games. He doesn't play cat and mouse. He doesn't play hide and seek. Yeah, we can choose to have the life of God removed from us, but that doesn't mean that God's life can't come back. It doesn't mean that the whole story's over. See, the enemy wants us to think that you have to have done it right all the time, perfectly, forever, before God will love you. That's not discipleship. There's no room to grow there. And so we need to be aware that if it hasn't always gone well since this positive experience that we've had with God, the enemy will try to bring us right back to where we were. Jesus talks about it in the sense of the evil one where, you cast out one demon and then he said 7 more will try to come back and take its place. The battle increases after something positive happens. And so one of the ways that the enemy will try to increase the battle will be to convince us that we've ruined it all, that it's all worthless now. We screwed it all up. That's simply not true. The experiences that we've had of God are eternal. God doesn't ever give up on us. We turn our hearts, we turn our minds back to Him in very real and practical ways. We literally turn our mind back to Him. So we think about God. And again, there's where gratitude comes in, where we start expressing gratitude. It's one of the most powerful antidotes of the enemy. is thanksgiving and gratitude. That's literally what Eucharist means, is thanksgiving. So the Eucharist, Mass, is a celebration of gratitude. I hope these have blessed you, and I'm so happy that you are experiencing some of the positive, beautiful encounters with the Lord.